last few decades, there are words that have become a common part of our vocabulary. Words that, until the last few years, weren't all that familiar. Words like stress or depression or burned out. Today on Truth for Life, we begin a new series from Alistair Begg on seeing God's faithfulness in life's trials. It's a series called Dangers, Toils, and Snares. And when our world intensifies and fear begins to grip our lives, we find solutions and relief in God's Word. Alistair has titled today's message, Dealing with Stress.
I have never done an SAT, having been educated in the United Kingdom, but I've started to do it now with the computer program, and I've logged on, and it's really pretty salutary stuff. And they have these things in the English section where they give you a list of words, and then they say, can you suggest two words that tie all these words together? You perhaps remember that. And you suggest the two words, and then it comes up, like dummy, and you just want to smash the little computer thing up right there in front of you. And I've actually found it to be quite a stressful experience. And that actually is what I want to talk to you about this afternoon, is about stress. There are all kinds of words which in the last 15 or 20 years have become common parlance. They were previously kind of psychobabble words, known only to certain individuals who used them. But they have now become equally usable by just about anyone, representing the depth of stress and related anxieties which people feel. For example, stressed out, burned out, anxious, bulimic, alienated, suffering from low self-esteem. And that's only just a smattering of them. And this whole vocabulary of a diminishing self or of a lost self is something that is just so pervasive that even for me to point it out in these moments is for you to say to yourself, well, yeah, I never really thought of it like that before, but he does have a point. What then are the underlying factors that create stress in so many of our lives? Well, we can't delve into all of it, but I would suggest that there are three in particular. One, the absence of what I might refer to as settled values. Secondly, the absence of stable hopes. And thirdly, the absence of established beliefs. The absence of settled values, stable hopes, and established beliefs. These things are in flux and in three particular areas. In the realm of family, in the realm of geography, and in the realm of industry. Or if you like, in the people factor, in the place factor, and in the purpose factor. As it relates to people and interpersonal relationships, many of us are significantly affected by fractured relationships, either in our immediate lives as it relates to children, or as it relates to a spouse, or a brother, or a sister, or a parent, or certainly in our extended realm. And every day, into the fabric of what makes us us, is poured this element as it relates to the people relationships. Also, the whole question of our location is involved in that. We live in an increasingly rootless culture. People move with tremendous rapidity. And whereas at an earlier point in the history of America, people knew where they lived, why they lived there, largely how long they'd be living there, and who was the postman and the baker and the candlestick maker, etc. And there was a measure of security that attached to that. But today, by and large, few people have the luxury of the security that is represented in those relationships. And it adds to the issue of stress. And then, of course, in the realm of industry or in business, people's lives are increasingly affected by the fluidity of the business and industry world. Many people, for example, in production lines, are being replaced by machines. People who had hoped to work to the age of 60 or perhaps even 65 are now waiting for someone coming knocking on their door, even in their late 40s and certainly in their early 50s. And all of these factors, without them being on the forefront of anybody's thinking, relate to this issue of stress. Now, those are simply underlying features of life. What about some of the surface issues that create stress? Well, for example, just the routine of life itself. Or, as some have referred to it, the rat race. I have, in recent weeks, and this is quite honestly so, in recent weeks I've been told on a number of occasions by gentlemen, if it were possible for me to step outside of my life right now, I would do it. Now, these are not unsuccessful people. These are highly successful people. These are not dumb people. These are highly intelligent people. And what they're saying to me is this: Alistair, I am absolutely tyrannized by the treadmill of my existence. The routine of getting up, going through it, coming home, getting up, and going through it all over again. And it is creating stress within their lives. The stress of the routine, the stress of the unusual, facing bereavement, relocation, divorce, loss of employment. They all add into the mixture of stress. The sense of having missed it. You realize how many people live with a great sense of having missed it. You know, I just wasn't there when he came, and I missed the one opportunity I believe I had. I just missed by a whisker the opportunity of that promotion or that relocation. I just missed the chance to ask her out. And doggone it, he asked her out. And I see them every day, and they're happily married. There are people who live with that all the time. Or the treadmill of financial irresponsibility. Those who have taken the waiting out of wanting by the constant use of plastic credit cards. And the sense of stress that that individual feels when they lie awake in the middle of the night or awaken early in the morning absolutely overwhelms them. And they respond to all kinds of advertisements. One that I found in a national newspaper in Britain, I couldn't believe my eyes, but this is what it said: now you can borrow enough to get completely out of debt. Can you imagine somebody saying to his wife, hey, we've hit on it, look at this. You get to that level, you know you got a deep problem. Now, that's enough by way of background. The question is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? Every time you travel on the plane, not every time, but often as you travel on the plane, if you take the United Magazine, US Air, Northwest, whatever it is, the chances are that somewhere in all of that literature, somebody will be telling you how to deal with stress. Because it is very topical and it is very obvious in people's lives. And so they'll tell you, for example, you can deal with your stress by finding yourself. Nobody really knows what finding yourself is, which is one of the reasons it's so much fun, presumably, to try and look for yourself. And that will, if you're spending so much time looking for yourself, you won't be able to worry about some of the other stuff, you know, that you've been concerned about before. Or, why don't you drop into a life? This was a phrase that was used just the other day. In fact, yesterday, by a young lady, married lady, and she said that she and her husband had just recently dropped into a life. Oh, I said, tell me about it. I said, this is intriguing to me. Oh, yes, she said. It's wonderful. You know, my husband was on the plane every week. He was gone 70% of the time, and he was driven in the corporate world. He was a vice president with whatever it was, somewhere here in Cleveland. And he just came home one day and he said, that's it. We're going to deal with all of this stress and all of this rigmarole, and we have just dropped into a life. And now she was sitting with another girl. And I said, so how is it working out? Oh, she says, it's wonderful. Oh, says her friend, no, it's not. Oh, she said, why do you say that? Well, says her friend, because when I called you at 8 o'clock last Sunday morning and I asked you if you were still in bed, you said, oh no, I've been up for ages. And I said, where's your husband? And you said, he's been at the office since 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. He just dropped into a life. He just dropped into a hole, and she dropped into it with him. They only are replacing one set of external factors for another set. And so you read all these little things. They'll tell you, you know, you can deal with stress in your life by telling a joke, you know, by smoking a cigarette, by brewing a cup of tea, by planting a flower, by maximizing your potential, by smoking dope or whatever else it is, by blowing up balloons, all this kind of nonsense. And some of you have been subjected to this in your corporate world. There are people that I know whose names who will remain nameless here, who are making significant six-figure salaries on the strength of some of you crazy corporate executives, if you'll pardon me. Because you are so bedeviled by what's going on that you are prepared to pay significant money to have stressed out people come and address your stressed out staff and make you do stupid things in the middle of your stressed out day, such as blowing up balloons and writing your name on them and doing all kinds of nonsense. And it speaks to the depth of the issue. The American Management magazine quoted another fellow that I had noted down not so long ago. This chap is giving a talk to executives about stress. And he reaches a high point in his dialogue, in his monologue, and he says to them, I am now going to give you a most important tip. Pregnant pause. Everyone needs an unconditional listener to unload on. Pregnant pause. Unfortunately, there is no human being who is an unconditional listener. So this is what I recommend. Pregnant pause. Talk to your dog. Talk to your dog. Now, can you imagine it? You go to school, and you go to graduate school, and you pull your socks on or your tights on in the morning, and you're trying to make a go of life, and some yahoo comes in, and he finally ends up telling you to talk to your dog. And you don't even have a dog. So you are in the worst of predicaments, right? This guy is stressing you out while you sit there listening to it. Oh, you say, so where do we go? Well, you go to the Bible. And unashamedly, this is what these table talks are about. It's not about the talking head, from Scotland. It's about whether the Bible would talk to us, whether the Bible speaks into our lives at the most practical of levels. Does the Bible have anything to say to the issue? If there are underlying factors as it relates to geography and family and industry, and if there are surface factors as outlined, what's the bottom line? Well, listen to what God says through his prophet Isaiah. I don't have it here in front of you. This is the Old Testament reading from Isaiah 56.